Okay, for part 2 of chapter 14, just a few highlights before your quiz. One is that we're looking at the different needs of the macro and micronutrients in this chapter. We'll also look at what happens if you have too much exertion, sort of what we did in chapter 9. So here's the carbs, fats, protein. So how much do you need as an athlete? So you need normally 6 grams of carb per every kilogram of body weight. But as an athlete, you need more because obviously you store more glycogen, you need more glycogen, your muscles have more storage space, your liver has more storage space. So that equals about 500 to 600 grams of carb a day. And you know that 130 grams a day is the minimum amount that you would need. So you wouldn't burn, so you don't want to burn protein for energy, but to keep the carbs sufficient. So that's quite a bit higher. Fats, it's no real change in fats, still up to 35% of your calories, just making sure your balance of fats is good. No trans fat, less saturated and more unsaturated, monounsaturated. And then protein, as we already talked about in the protein chapter, you probably aren't going to be getting enough for the minimum of 0.8 grams per kilogram of protein. So you might go as far as high as even 2 grams a kilogram if you're doing strength training. And then as far as vitamin and minerals, not much change, although there is a recommendation that you might need more B vitamins than a normal person. So here's the protein, up to 2 grams, depending on the athletic sport. So endurance might be up to 1.4. Resistant athletes a little bit lower. If you're starting out and building muscle, you need more. Since the vitamin minerals aren't that much higher unless you're a vegetarian. And if you are taking and eating fortified foods, you're probably getting plenty of B vitamins, but you do have an increased demand for most of these B6, B12, and folate. And to prevent damage to your muscles with the oxidative stress that does occur, even just with exercise, there's oxidative stress. Sorry about that. So extra vitamin E and C, which are both antioxidants, is helpful for anybody, but it's maybe especially helpful if you're an athlete. So those are the concerns for nutrients. Iron also could be a problem, especially if you're a runner, something called sports anemia. Because you have such a high need for oxygen, you need more red blood cells. But if you don't have enough, obviously you need more iron to hold on to so the hemoglobin can hang on to the iron. Some runners, actually, the red blood cells are somewhat fragile, so just the pounding of running can actually destroy red blood cells. Of course, women are at higher risk. Calcium also. You actually lose some calcium and some iron in sweat, so even just that small amount could lead to a higher need. And of course, if a female with a female triad syndrome not getting enough, or with a male athlete dysfunction, not getting enough calcium can cause bone loss, osteoporosis. Getting enough fluids, as we mentioned in chapter 9, is obviously essential because of what you're losing in sweat. 2% of body weight loss, anything more than that is considered dangerous. So you need to weigh yourself. For some sports, you need to weigh yourself before and after to make sure you haven't lost more than that amount of weight. And you can't just go with how thirsty you are. You could look at your urine color. But be sure that before the event, not just an hour before, but a full 24 hours before an event, you should be drinking because your body can't rehydrate in just an hour's time. And then the recommendation is 4 hours before, look at your body weight, 5 to 7 mils, an hour before, another cup and a half or so, and then afterwards also within 4 to 6 hours after. Every pound lost needs 2 to 3 cups of water to replenish and prevent dehydration. So that is probably one of the most important things to remember, and that is to prevent heat exhaustion. And that is when you've lost heat from your sweat, obviously, but this can lead to dizziness, nausea, visual disturbances, and it's especially dangerous during humid days when you're sweating, but your sweat can't evaporate. This would be if you have a fluid loss of 3 to 8 cups per hour. It can lead to heat exhaustion. It lowers your endurance and strength and performance if you don't keep hydrated. So that's important. And then heat cramps is another condition that could occur with these muscle contractions. And to prevent this, you need plenty of fluid again. And if you exercise more than 60 minutes, you need more than just water. You need some kind of electrolyte sports, either a sports drink or milk or juice or something that has more than just water in it. And then heat stroke is the most serious condition, which can actually lead to coma, and that's when your exercise load is so high that you can't cool off fast enough, and you usually have a fever, and that fever can denature the proteins and cause fatalities. So those are one of the serious conditions. The treatments for these are fluids and electrolytes, and then for the heat stroke, you have to put ice or something cool, put the person in the shade. I think you saw the video in chapter 9, and seek medical help right away. So sports drinks are recommended for activities more than 1 hour. For less than 1 hour, there's not enough loss of electrolytes usually, so just water itself should be sufficient. And then the special nutrients, the special meals that you would have to have before, during, and after an event. So here we have wanting a possibility we do carbohydrate loading, and that is to fill up your system. Basically, you're filling up your glycogen stores ahead of the exercise, like a week ahead. So you can see there's a little table here at the bottom that 6 days before the event, you would exercise and eat kind of a normal amount of carbohydrate. But then 5 days before, you would cut back a little bit in your exercise until 3 days before. Now you're cutting back again in your exercise, but increasing your glycogen for the last 2 days before the event. And then, of course, resting the day right before the event so that you can take all those carbs that you're eating and save them for the actual event. Some people find this helpful. Some sports, they don't like to do this because they feel heavy. They feel like they can't perform as well. But usually for a very long-term marathon or something, that is helpful. So you're maximizing your glycogen stores. And then here another possibility, instead of a high carb, sometimes if people want to go for a high fat. This can take a while for your body to adapt to, but if you increase your fat from 35% of your calories to 60% of your calories, so now you're using energy from your triglyceride stores. And there's still mixed research on whether some people really find this works better for them. It's something you'd have to experiment with. And when it actually comes before the meal, what to do right before the meal, 2 to 4 hours before the meal, you want to go with low fat and low fiber, basically. Some protein, some fat, some carb, but not a lot of fiber, not too much fat. And then that will help not make you feel heavy or weighted down. Here's some examples. Like here is a Cheerios, that's 450 calories, but 92 grams of fat, of carbs. Or you can go with this meal, which is yogurt and a bagel with not too much fat, just a little peanut butter on it for the protein, and then the yogurt and the juice and the bagel all have carbs. Or for a dinner, you could have some meat, some carbs, some carbs, some carbs, some carbs. So this is protein and carbs. And this is carbs with a small amount of protein in the milk. So those are some examples of high carb meals. And then during the meal to replenish, you can try to take these little carbohydrate. There's gels that you can take, and there's a discussion and a lot of research about whether the gel should just be carb or should have a little fat or a little protein. What should be in these carbs? But generally, 30 to 60 grams of carb per hour during a long-term event. And they suggest different types of carbs are helpful, but since glucose is absorbed differently than glucose, often you'll see these things are a combination of different types of carbohydrate. And putting a little protein with it seems to be a benefit. So not just carb, but a slight amount of protein seems the best combination. So these gels and these chews that you can get are usually a combination of carb, mostly carbs, some protein, some fat, and maybe some fiber. And often they'll have vitamins and minerals. So you have to be careful how much of these you take because of the minerals and vitamins that are in them. So recovery after the event. So now because of the fatigue, they usually recommend that you replenish your glycogen, you replenish your fluids pretty quickly, within an hour after the event. So here they're suggesting 1.2 grams per hour after the event, every 15 minutes. That's for carbohydrate, or a smaller amount of protein. And that also enhances the glycogen recovery. And that's when your cells or your muscle cells are most receptive to insulin, so you can build it right back up. And if you're doing another event, like very soon after the first event, it's especially important. And of course, you're going to weigh yourself to see if you've lost too much fluid. Here's some sample menus of different calorie plans. So you're wondering, like, how many calories would it, if I took this many in, how much would it look like? So that's on that slide. And the last thing in this section was just looking at ergogenic aids. Like, is it helpful for athletic performance to take different ergogenics? So some people take protein powder, some people take different supplements to try to help. So they're finding that really your protein, you can really only absorb or use like 20 to 40 grams of protein at one time. So taking more than that isn't necessarily going to improve your performance. And if you do take extra protein, of course, it needs extra fluid. Some people take caffeine because they think the caffeine will stimulate their muscle contraction and give them better performance. But basically, you have to be skeptical. You check the validity of the science behind some of these performance aids and look for the danger zones, because even just caffeine, caffeine overdose can kill you. I mean, there was a kid who bought some caffeine powder, I think on Amazon, and killed himself. He didn't know how much to take, basically. So yes, it's good, but like everything else, it's not good in large doses, because this is what it does. It can cause seizures, overextension of muscle contractions. It can cause vomiting. It can cause ringing in your ears. So it's not something to play around with. And so on these slides are all the different. Some people even take baking soda to try to neutralize the pH from acid buildup from muscle fatigue. The branched chain amino acids we found to be somewhat helpful. And then there's this the dangerous illegal substances are anabolic steroids, blood doping, epinephrine, GHB, and growth hormone. So those are things to watch out for. So that's the lowdown on nutrition and sports. And we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.